Hello everyone. So I finally read one of the most hyped books ever, The Song of Achilles. This book is popular in almost all the bookish social media platforms, BookTube, Bookstagram, BookTok, BookTwitter. And the hype surrounding it, was it too much or was it totally worth it? I'll tell you about it in a minute. But for anyone who has not read the book, what is it about? So it is based on Greek mythology and it is about Achilles. So Achilles was the legendary hero amongst the Greeks. He was considered as one of the greatest warriors amongst the Greeks. Now, and he took part in one of the most legendary wars in Greek mythology called the Trojan War. Now, anyone who is familiar with Greek mythology, you obviously know all of these names and all of the events that took place in this story, in this tale. But for anyone who does not know much about the Trojan War or Achilles or Greek mythology in general, let me give you some context about it. So Trojan War was this mythical war that was fought between the Greeks and the Trojans in this mythical city of Troy. And the war was fought because one of the most well-known Greek queens called Helen was kidnapped by one of the Trojan kings. Helen was known as one of the most beautiful women at that time. And before her marriage, so many of the kings of Greece, so many of the kingdoms from Greece, they kind of swore an oath that they would always protect her at all cost. And in compliance with this oath, when she was in trouble, when she was kidnapped, all the kingdoms, they came together. All the kings from different kingdoms of Greece, they came together and they marched off to Troy in order to rescue her from the Trojans. And this legendary war, it lasted for 10 years. And Achilles was one of the he had a major role to play in this war because he was, as I have mentioned, he was the best of all the warriors. It was so difficult to defeat him. So all the Greek army, they kind of relied on Achilles. And this book, The Song of Achilles, is a retelling of not only his story, but it explores him and his relationship with another prince of a different kingdom who was called Patroclus. According to Greek legend, he was the best friend of Achilles and he also took part in the Trojan War along with Achilles. Now the author, Madeline Miller, the author of this book, she has kind of reimagined their relationship and she has added LGBT romance into it. So we follow their story mainly about how they met, how their friendship and bond grew, and we see them travel together to different places like the Pelion Mountains where they were trained under the centaur Chiron for medicine and war. And there are so many beautiful moments about their togetherness in the book, and then we see them participating in the war and the conclusion is very tragic. So many people already know about the conclusion, about everything that happened in the war, but I'm someone who does not know much about Greek mythology. I just know these names. I know names like the Trojan War, Achilles. I don't know much. And so many things that happen in the story, even the events that actually happen in the original Greek myth, they were unknown to me. So there were so many moments of surprises in the book. So anyone who's not acquainted with Greek mythology, it's actually kind of a good thing because you will be surprised at every turn in the book. It's also a great thing because for anyone who wants to get into Greek mythology, you can directly go into it without knowing anything else. Like Madeline Miller has done a good work of making the book accessible to everyone. So she kind of explains the necessary things. So it's easy to go into it. And it's also a great book for anyone who already knows the story because even though they know the story, they would be surprised at how the author has added her own twist to it. She has kind of recreated such a complex world through her own imagination and her beauty of words. And even though people know the outcome of the story about the tragic conclusion, they like they were surprised how she was able to like carry it out in her own words. And by now I think you can already guess that I'm praising the book. So the question as to did the book live up to the hype for me? It's yes, it did live up to the hype for me, and I'm so happy because there have been instances before where a hype book haven't really worked for me, but this time it did. The story is as good as anyone says it to be. The writing is beautiful, the story is beautifully tragic, and there is such a beautiful flow to the story. I love the flow and the beauty of the writing and the narration. It was beautiful because it felt so real. Everything felt so real. The characters felt real, their bonding felt real, the war felt so real. One can really feel the emotions, the brutality of all these terrible situations or circumstances. And for someone who does not know much about the war, it was so good to see the natural progression of things, like the way she was able to explain the war, the whole brutality of it, everything that's related to the war in such a beautiful way, like how the war progressed and went on to last for 10 years and every kind of changes that happened during that time. And amidst all the brutality, there were also some really good, pristine, joyful moments as well. Not just in the pre-war stage, but also during the war, because it was just so beautiful to see how things progressed, how people, how that place of seas in Troy, it became like a city and people became families. The armies, they were not just armies, they became families, and so much there was so much bonding amongst everyone. Even the pre-war development of the story was really good. The way Achilles and Patroclus' friendship, it developed slowly, and then the post-war change in Achilles as a person and the change in the relationship between Achilles and Patroclus. Overall, it was a great story, and it made me more interested in Greek mythology, which did not happen before. Like, I have read a few retellings, but for some reason or the other, they haven't really worked for me, and I thought Greek mythology, maybe it's not for me. But this book kind of changed my view. And it's also a surprising thing because the author, Madeline Miller's other book, Circe, which is also another popular book of hers, it did not work for me. Like, I DNF'd the book. And it's an unpopular opinion because so many people love that book as well. But even though I thought that the writing was beautiful, I was not able to connect with the story and with the character of Circe. Wait, I have the book now. Wait, this is Circe. I think I bought it at the time when the book was released. So it's been 3 years perhaps, I don't know, but the bookmark, it's still there. I just read it till here and then kind of I abandoned the story. Like, I was not interested in it anymore. And it's sad because I so wanted the book to work for me because the writing was beautiful and everyone was raving about it. But again, there are no worries because the author, she worked for me the second time with her other book, The Song of Achilles. But a good thing is that after reading The Song of Achilles, I have kind of developed a renewed interest for this story, and this time I think I'm going to read the book from the beginning and just finish it. I'm not sure if I'm going to like it as much as The Song of Achilles, but I have a great feeling that I'm going to like this book better than the first time. Whatever happens, I'm going to finish this book because I owe that to the author, because I think she is great. Okay, so that was all about the Song of Achilles, and I would definitely recommend it to everyone. If you like mythology, you might like this book. If you're a story lover, you would like this book. It has so many things that people love. It has war, it has tragedy, it has beauty, it has hope, it has love, and it has beautiful writing. So yeah, you might enjoy the story a lot. It will make you cry and you would not be disappointed. So that was all about the non-spoilery part of the review. If you are someone who has not read the book I think these are the things that you should know, and not more than that, because the things that I'm going to talk about next are kind of spoilers. So if you have not read the book, I would urge you to stop this book, to stop this video here itself. Okay, so there were certain aspects of Greek mythology that I wanted to discuss. So I have always heard about this term called Achilles' heel. It's an English phrase, and it generally means, it kind of refers to someone's weakest point or weakness. And I thought this is obviously related to Achilles, and I was kind of hoping to see this aspect in the story, and it did not come. And then when I researched, or when I read the notes towards the end of the book, where Madeline Miller has actually taken up this subject. So according to her, actually the original legends, the legends of Homer, he has not really taken up this concept. The legends were later modified to include this part about Achilles' heel. So what happens is that in the modified legends, Achilles was invincible and no one can kill him. So the only way to kill Achilles was to kind of attack his foot. That was the only portion where he can be like defeated. It was his weakest part of his body. So when Paris, the Trojan king, when he shot the arrow, it hit Achilles' foot, and in that way only Achilles was able to be killed. But in Madeline Miller's story here, in the Song of Achilles, Achilles was simply killed by Paris at the end. There was no mention of the foot. So Madeline Miller said that because she has taken inspiration only from those original legends, she has not considered this part. And there might be some other explanation, I don't know, but according to the notes towards the end of the book, that's what the author has said. So one of my favorite characters from the story, from the book, the side characters would be Chiron the centaur. I obviously don't know much about his original story. I don't know anything about him except for whatever is given about him in the book. Chiron seems like a very, kind, I would say. I don't know much about him, but that's the impression I got of him from the book. I really loved that part in the Pelian Mountains, that part was so beautiful, and there was no hint of any war or all those kind of things. I loved the bonding between these three characters. It was really interesting to see them every day, the way they were learning so many things about medicine and war, and Chiron's advice were very fatherly-like. Another favorite character of mine was Briseis. Again, another character about whom I know nothing. I have not even heard her name, but she was a major character in the Iliad, in the original Greek legend, and I would definitely love to know more about her. I just loved her version in this story. The way she took stand in front of Achilles for Patroclus. Her character had such a great potential. I have heard about another book called The Silence of the Girls, which is again a retelling of the Trojan War. That story is from Briseis' perspective, so I'm very interested to read the book to see more about the women of the Trojan War. And about goddess Thetis. She was obviously an unlikable character from the start. She created so many problems for Patroclus and Achilles. But obviously, the thing she did in the end, it was I was not expecting that from her. I thought throughout the story she would be this villain in the whole book, but obviously things were also hard for her because her past was also very brutal. And I would love to see things from her perspective as well. The ending was so tragic, but the way she wrote Patroclus' name, ultimately it was her who wrote Patroclus' name in the tomb of Achilles, and it was the way Patroclus got released, his spirit got released. And I was not expecting that. I was really, really moved by that whole scene. The conclusion is purely tragic, but that those few lines that are there in the end, the possible meeting of the two souls of Achilles and Patroclus, the way she has represented that in such is such a beautiful way in just a few lines, that's really hopeful. Like, despite everything, despite all kinds of tragedies, that those lines are ultimately very hopeful and beautiful. In the darkness, two shadows reaching through the hopeless, heavy dusk, their hands meet and light spills in a flood like 100 golden arms pouring out of the sun. Beautiful. So that was all I had to say about the Song of Achilles. And yeah, I'm hoping to read more of beautiful Greek mythology retellings. In fact, I'm very much interested to read more of the original Greek legends as well. I hope to get into the Iliad and the Odyssey. Perhaps, let's see when will that happen. And that was all I had to say. And thank you for being here till the end, and I will come back with another video next time. Till then, do take care and stay safe, and goodbye. Have a great day ahead.